Growing up, I had the same dream as every other working-class student: finish high school with enough GCSEs to apply for college, and then finish college with enough A-levels to apply for university. University is made out to be the pinnacle of our late teenage years, a privilege where only the most competent reach, a path that, if followed, will free you from the shackles of poverty, or so we are told. You know, I never quite understood the allure. I mean, you put yourself into thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, pounds worth of debt, all for a degree that depreciates in value. Let's be real, though, we don't go for the potential career prospects or to make our family proud. We go simply for the university experience. For the first 2 years, my university experience was rough. I attended a somewhat prestigious university where the students were predominantly middle class. I come from a working class background, so that alone made it difficult to connect with them. Don't get me wrong, I did try. I mean, I renamed Mum and Dad in my phone to Mother and Father to be like them. Yeah, pathetic, I know. But aside from learning that they referred to their parents as Mum and Dad too, it turned out that when you come from different socio-economic backgrounds, share none of the same interests, and have lived completely different lives, it is almost impossible to initiate a meaningful conversation and ultimately bond with them. That changed in my third year. More specifically, it changed when I met Lucy. Lucy was my new flatmate, an okay-looking, funny and outgoing radiology student with a hot friend, Amy. Both Lucy and Amy were working-class students, and the three of us instantly hit it off. Within minutes, we had become the bestest of friends. The Three Musketeers, if you will. We would do everything together. We would meet up for brunch, go our separate ways for classes, and then meet back up for dinner. We would go to the gym together, on hikes together, and to the pubs together. You get my point? We were inseparable. It did not take long. Probably in the first hour or so of meeting Amy did I develop romantic feelings for her. I never shared or intended to share my feelings at first. I finally had some friends at university, and I did not want to mess that up. Plus, it would not have been appropriate. Amy did in fact have a boyfriend, and I wanted to be respectful towards their relationship. However, hearing her constantly go on about her boyfriend and other men that she found attractive whilst basically being in love with her drove me insane. Amy needed to know for my own sanity. I could not have picked a worse time to share my feelings. Amy and her boyfriend had just ended their 5-year relationship, and she was not taking it well. Despite this, I told Amy how I felt and was ecstatic that she felt the same way, is what I had hoped. Instead, I had a reunion with the classic "You are like a brother to me." Gosh, I could not tell you how many times I'd heard that before. Instantly, this life I envisioned with Amy on a farm, raising our children and feeding the chickens, eviscerated. I masked the rejection well, though, I guess. Countless rejections do that to you. And after a couple of awkward days, everything was back to how it was. Best friends. I mean, now, brother and sister, great. Months later, though, on a completely random night of partying, Amy kissed me. Yes, you heard that right. My best friend, my supposed sister, kissed me. Apparently she realized months back that she had feelings for me, but refused to share these feelings because we hadn't known each other for that long. In fact, these feelings were what led to the dissolution of her last relationship. I was over the moon. It felt like I'd found the last piece to the jigsaw. Anyway, one thing led to another, and this drunken kiss developed into a serious, committed relationship. Never give up, folks. I would talk more about the relationship. I mean, the fairy tale lasted for months, and we made so many amazing memories together. However, this is not supposed to be a romantic story, so I will leave it at that. I was caught off guard when Amy dumped me. I mean, we had a pleasant conversation the night prior, discussing our future plans, and so it was puzzling to wake up to a "we need to talk" text instead of the usual "good morning, babe." I told her that I would respect her decision. I was calm and collected on the outside. On the inside, however, I was crushed. Please understand that this was the woman of my dreams. I sacrificed everything in those months we were together. I was devastated, ashamed that we could not make it work, and was furious that she led me on with those false promises. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. And for the next few days, I did not feel like I was living. Rather, I was surviving. I was fighting with myself, trying to quieten the voices telling me to end it all. I was at rock bottom, praying for a way out. One night, in the midst of my depression, I looked up ways to win your ex back. I was distraught. What did you expect? I came across a promising guide written by an alpha male. The guide was nothing complicated and simply encouraged no contact for 30 days. 31 days later, I realized that I had messed up, and in a state of panic, I quickly went back online in search of a miracle. And I thought I found one. I stumbled across a peculiar website of a psychic claiming to be able to guarantee your ex back. I was obviously skeptical, given what had happened with the alpha moron. However, I read one review, which turned into 2, then 3, and before I knew it, I'd spent hours reading through thousands of positive reviews. In a moment of delusion and desperation, I reached out to the psychic. A few days later, I received an email back. She seemed polite. We exchanged a few messages. I told her about Amy and the breakup, and then she told me how much it would cost. Essentially, how this worked was, the psychic would cast white magic, which involved making deals with supposedly good spirits to influence Amy's mind to want me back. Apparently, this was a more ethical version of black magic, which would have conjured up evil spirits to strip someone of their free will. Looking back now, neither of them were ethical. The whole concept is diabolical, and I am ashamed that I had engaged in a satanic ritual. After the casting, the psychic sent me a report summarizing our transaction. It was just her parroting everything I had told her about the breakup. All she asked from me was to not make contact with Amy and to look for signs that the spell is working. As soon as I read that, I was certain that this psychic, took her inspiration from that alpha moron's guide. Helplessly, I decided to bite the bullet and began looking for the signs. The signs included noticing ascending numbers, hearing Amy's name being called, smelling Amy's perfume, and her appearance in my dreams. That same night, I got into bed and spent hours mindlessly scrolling through Reddit and YouTube. I figured it was quite late and time to get some rest. I was just about to turn off my phone when I glanced at the time and had seen my first sign. It was 1:23 a.m., ascending numbers. That sign alone produced enough dopamine in my brain for me to forget about the breakup. Amy was on her way back to me. I could feel it. That feeling of Amy coming back intensified the next night. While I did not notice any ascending numbers, I did experience another sign. I had just gotten out of the shower and unpacked some new pajamas to wear when suddenly I noticed a smell. It was Amy's smell. Amy's signature fragrance, Gucci Bamboo. Needless to say, I was ecstatic. 2 out of the 4 signs, I was halfway there. I could practically smell her. The following night is when things started to turn a little strange. It had been a relatively normal day, followed by a relatively normal night. I had not noticed any new signs that day, and in anticipation of the next day and the next sign, I decided to try and sleep early, and I'm glad I did. During my sleep is when I experienced my 3rd sign. Amy made an appearance in my dream. It felt surreal, and I was convinced this was telling of what was to come. I remember the dream vividly. It was in the evening, and I was on the beach watching the sea display its dormant strength, the waves crashing, sending ripples to the shore where my feet were submerged. It was peaceful. As I was gazing out into the stretch of water that seemingly went on forever, Amy came and sat beside me. It was like nothing had changed, and everything was the way it was. Amy didn't speak a word at first. However, she slowly turned her head towards me and looked deep into my eyes, and that is when I noticed her eyes turning black, her pupils enlarged, completely shrouding her iris, as she then let out a sinister laugh. I froze. Amy then screamed in a deep and chilling tone, "Run!" The frequency in her voice pierced my ears as the residual shockwaves woke me up. It didn't feel normal. In fact, it felt like something was seriously wrong. It took several minutes for me to calm down, but I took some solace in knowing that I had now experienced 3 out of the 4 signs. I could feel something was coming to me. I just wasn't sure if it was Amy. Amy is quite a common name. Honestly, it is a name that I heard being called several times a day. However, since I began my quest on finding the signs, I did not hear the name Amy once. It was ironic, given how it was the last sign, and I thought this would be the first sign I would encounter. I eventually did encounter it, though it was not as I hoped. What started off as trivial now turned demonic. I remember it was in the early hours of Sunday. I had woken up to use the bathroom. I was half asleep while sat on the toilet when I heard the name Amy being called from my bedroom. It was that same deep, chilling voice that I heard in my dreams. Amy, 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 Amy. It repeated. I was petrified. I got up and tiptoed back into my bedroom, looking to see where the voice had come from, but there was nothing. I thought I was going crazy. I was exhausted, sweaty, and struggling to keep my eyes open. I figured it would be best to take a shower so I could then reassess the situation. I must have spent 5 minutes in the shower before the steam forced me out. When I got out, that is when I noticed the message on the mirror. "We will be together forever," it read. I stood, paralyzed in fear. My head started spinning. I felt incredibly nauseous. The world around me turned black. I collapsed. I couldn't tell you how long I was out, but I woke up in the care of my flatmate. I didn't have the energy to ask how they had gotten in or what had happened. To be frank, I couldn't care less. I just wanted this nightmare to be over. I woke up the next morning in fear. A text message from my flatmate telling me to call if I needed anything was a little reassuring. However, I knew I needed real help. That same day I got in my car and drove back to my hometown to see if my old priest could help explain what was going on. As soon as I got there, he told me to confess my sin. He said there was a dark aura emanating from within me and I was in danger. I told him how I had sought help from a psychic who had casted magic on my behalf. I could see the priest becoming uncomfortable. He asked for what reason did I want magic to be done. I replied, "For love." I could see the anger build up inside of him as he disappointingly told me to sit down. The priest told me that I was not safe and there was something evil trying to latch onto me. The spell that the psychic had casted sent an open invitation to the realm of the spirits. It just so happened to be that this spell was accepted by something vengeful, a spirit that had been posing as Amy, providing false signs in an attempt for me to lower my guard and relinquish my free will so that the spirit could take over. The priest informed me that I had come at just the right time. Any longer and I would have surely been a passenger in my own body. After what seemed like hours of lectures, the priest then shared a protection prayer to be read twice a day. Once when I woke up and once before bed. He also provided me with a relic to keep in my possession at all times. According to the priest, these combined would be enough to keep this evil away. And I believe it has done just that. To this day, 10 years later, I have not had an experience like that again. I'm not entirely sure if the spirit has truly left me. I mean, I still recite my prayers every day, and I will not stop reciting them to find out.